Greetings, respect, and love. Welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to a very special start to a series of episodes that I'm dubbing Anti-Clickbait Week in response to the Prog Corner, who's a friend of mine, really liked the videos that he put out last week. He did what he dubbed Clickbait Week, where he was putting out videos just to get a bunch of views, to kind of do these hot button topics that would get a lot of interest for him on his channel. And I thought it'd be funny to kind of do the opposite angle of the things that he was doing on his channel. Because, you know, he was doing these kind of clickbaity titles that were more in a negative direction, talking about bands he hates and overrated albums and all this kind of thing. So I thought it'd be fun to flip that a little bit on its head, since my goal in this channel is to bring about positivity and to talk about things I love. And I'm not really interested in amassing a massive following and getting tons of subscribers and views, although, you know, any attention is nice, I'm sure, for anybody. But I always have thought of my goal for my channel to be to gather a following of like-minded people who support me and who have similar interests to me, and who I can recommend music to and talk about the things that I love with. So that's my goal on the channel. So I know that a lot of these videos won't get tons of views and subscribers, and, you know, my analytics aren't really all that impressive and whatever, but I just try to be genuine and to give my honest thoughts about the music and about things that matter to me. So, and hopefully you guys enjoy that feel. I know it's a lot different than the energetic kind of craziness of Prog Corner, where I'm a little bit more laid back and a little bit more calm. But I think we can both exist in this world, and it's probably better that we're different and fulfill different niches on YouTube. So I'm talking today about the bands that I love, because he talked about the bands that he hates, so I'm going to flip that around and talk about my top 15 bands that I love in modern progressive rock. And these are active bands that are still creating music, as far as I know. So I keep a running list. Maybe this is kind of ridiculous, but I keep a list of bands that I'm the most interested in, and I kind of rank them, and I move them up and down depending on how I feel about their latest record or how I feel about the latest activity with the group. When they're kind of haven't had a lot of activity in recent years, I kind of move them down the list a little bit. So these are the bands I'm most excited about in terms of what they're releasing and what they're doing. So I thought it'd be a cool way to talk about some of my favorite bands and to showcase that there's so much great stuff to love in modern progressive rock. I'm doing this a little bit in response also to Neve, the prog nerd, who also did a video about why she hates modern progressive. Maybe hate isn't the right word, but her issue with modern progressive rock and how she doesn't like a lot of it, and she just doesn't feel like any of the bands are original or that great in modern progressive rock, and that it's really progressive metal where bands are shining and doing more creative and interesting things. And so I'm responding both to that and to Prog Corner and giving a list of my favorites. So at number 15, I have the band Is. One of my favorite bands that I connected with way back when I was getting into new prog music. They were playing at a festival near where I live called Cal Prog, and me and my dad were going to this and didn't know any of the bands, so we bought a bunch of CDs from the different bands that were going to be there, and we both fell in love with Is. We love their sound. They're a US-based band. Two brothers helm most of the music there, and they play in a very classic symphonic prog style, but I feel like they have a real unique bent to what they do, and they're just really talented in their own right. And they have a couple of female backup singers as well to bring another dimension. They have two different drummers and a lot of percussion on their music as well, and play a quirky, you know, classic prog style, and it's just really excellent. They have a new album coming out next month, which I'm really excited to check out. So band to recommend. I really love their album My River Flows. I Move is also a great record from them, and they have just a series of really fun, great standout prog albums that I just absolutely adore. Next, at number 14, I have the Flower Kings, which has kind of been falling a little bit on my list, if I'm being honest. They used to be one of my top tier favorite bands. They'd be probably in my like top 4 or 5 if I was doing like kind of an all-time list. But their recent activity hasn't been quite up to the par of what they used to do, in my opinion. Their last couple records just haven't really reached the heights of some of their classic material through like the late 90s into the 2000s. But I still love them, so they're still on the list. They still deserve a spot. Even though I say their albums haven't been as great recently, I still love them. I still collect them. I still think they're great and standouts in the modern progressive rock field. It's just comparatively because I have such an affinity towards their classic catalog, towards albums like Stardust We Are, and Space Revolver and Unfold the Future. These just don't quite measure up to those classics, but still have tons of great material. Their latest album, Look at Me Now, or Look at You Now, I think, is just a really cool slice of symphonic prog, some shorter tracks, but they all have something unique to bring to the table. And pretty much anything Roine Stolt puts his fingers on is all included in this 14 pick. I just really love Roine Stolt's writing abilities and what he does as an artist, and his biggest creative outlet is the Flower Kings, and I think they're premier modern symphonic prog that I just absolutely love and continue to love and will continue to collect and continue to get excited about. Number 13 is kind of I consider this the Spock-Speared / Pattern-Seeking Animals spot here, because it used to be Spock-Speared was like one of my premier, this is one of my favorite bands of all time. Of course, they've changed and morphed throughout the years in their lineup. They used to have Neil Morse at the helm, but then he left the group, and that Nick DiVirgilio took over, and then Nick DiVirgilio left the group, and Ted Leonard swooped in. So they've had a lot of shifting changes over the years, and that's why they kind of have fallen a little bit on the list, because they haven't had a new album in quite some time. And I, in fact, am a little unsure if they're going to continue with more new albums. It's hard to say if they're still active as a group. They've still played some live shows even recently. But there hasn't been much discussion of if they're going to be doing a new album. I believe Noise Floor, their previous album, it came out in 2018, I want to say. But taking over this mantle a little bit is Pattern Seeking Animals, which has some of the members from Spock-Speared present and past. It has Ted Leonard. It has Dave Maros, who's been with Spock-Speared since the beginning. And then it has Jimmy Keegan, who's drummed for Spock-Speared, and John Baghold, who's written for Spock-Speared. And it's an incredible collective who kind of carries the torch for this style of music. Maybe a little bit different, a little bit of a poppier flair to the writing style, a little bit more eclectic and different, dabbling their toes in different styles and things, but still just really great written songs and some incredible musicians. And I've liked all of the records that they've come out with as this collective, and they're coming out with a new record later this year, so really cool that they're kind of taking over the mantle of this spot on my list, and I think it's a lot of fun. Number 12, they've been slowly rising up the ranks here on my list. This is Dirt Poor Robins, who I've just fallen in love with, and this is there's a couple on this list that maybe blur the lines between what's prog and what isn't prog, but I really love their style, a husband and wife duo who just are both incredible singers and play this like really artful rock music that's a bit theatrical. It takes its cue from a lot of different genres and styles, has a little bit of a Beatles-esque quality at times. Sometimes they'll do old vaudevillian kind of things. Everything's revolving usually around a concept, and they're just fantastic. I love their recent record Firebird, which is going to rank high in my favorite albums of the year list. And even though it's not traditional prog, it's just really well-written music and has a sense of adventurousness and artistry that I really appreciate and respect from them as an artist. Number 11 is Riverside. I just love Riverside. I've always loved them since the beginning. Out of Myself, Second Life Syndrome, all of those records, Rapid Eye Movement. And they've just continued to develop and mature throughout the years. I just really love their recent records. I love Identity. Love Fear in the Time Machine is one of their best records. They started more in progressive metal vein, but I think as they progress and mature as a band, they kind of move away from that a little bit and move more into like a more traditional rock or prog rock direction. But whatever it is, I love their sound. Their last record, Identity, even introduced a little bit of an 80s style to some of their tracks, so they're incredible live. They're a Polish band, and they've always been circling as one of my favorite bands, so definitely a big fan of everything they do and can't wait to see what they come up with next. At number 9, I have Frost. Incredible group that I fell in love with their album Million Town. This is more like neo-prog done in a more modern, interesting style. I feel like what really turned me on to them with Million Town was just this way that they were able to bring almost a pop production sensibility to their sound, but still have it rooted in like this neo-prog style, this really cool blend of musicianship, but really interesting melodies and hooks. I really love the extended piece of Million Town that goes in so many different directions, but is just beautiful, has these layers of keyboards and piano all throughout it. Jim Godfrey is kind of helming this project, but you've also got John Mitchell on board, who's one of my favorite musicians, and they're just an incredible group that have continued to impress me with each of their subsequent records. I believe they're planning a record for this year, perhaps, or at least sometime soon. It could be, I almost feel like I'm hearing hints that it might be their last record, so that could knock them out of my list because I only am talking about active bands, but for the time being, they're still active and they're still making music, and I really love their sound. If you're looking for something a bit more modern and different and powerful, but not metal, more in the traditional prog vein, I think they really tick a lot of boxes. At number 8, another one that maybe might be a stretch to call prog, but is a really cool band. This is Reign of Kindo that I've really fallen in love with. They do a bit more in like a jazz rock style, I would say. Definitely jazzy sound to what they do, but they do add a little bit of prog flourishes here and there that bring a bit of character and interest to their sound. But they have incredible vocals, incredible musicianship. They're super tight. They play such incredible stuff. Some of their early records are just classics like Rhythm, Chord, and Melody, and This Is What Happens. I love those records to death. Lately, they've been a little bit quiet because they have this like patron program that you can subscribe to. I'm subscribed to their Patreon, and for a while they did like a song per month. You'd pay $1 per month and they'd come out with a new song that you could hear, kind of a rough makes version, and they've been kind of working on these patron songs towards a new record, hopefully, in the near future. So there's movement there. They might be coming out with a new record sometime in the future, but they're kind of working on it really slowly. So we'll see how that goes. But one of my favorite groups, maybe not traditional prog, but I think they can be enjoyed by a lot of people who love prog because they have just really solid musicianship and are just really great players. So really excited about them. Number 7, I have Thank You Scientist, who are an incredible group. Their future may be a little bit murky as well because they lost their lead singer, who unfortunately left the group. So it's a little bit uncertain what they're going to be doing in the future, but they are signed up for Cruise to the Edge. So that's a good sign that they're not like packing it up as a band, that they're going to continue forward. But I don't know if they're getting a new singer or if they're, just going to forge ahead as an instrumental band or what's going to happen. But they're incredible musicians. Once again, I love how they bring a more modern sound and style to their music. They're not really traditional progressive rock either. And that's a trend of a lot of groups that I like recently, is I just think that they have a cool, really excellent sound. They have some horns, they have some violin, they bring different elements and instruments into the play, and it creates a very eclectic mix of like jazz and fusion and prog and rock and maybe a bit of metal even at times. And it just sounds really fresh and modern and new. Doesn't sound like it's too mired in the past. And I just love what they do. They're really quirky and fun musicians, and they're incredible to watch live. They're just really fun live performers also. Number 6, I have Moon Safari, who just came out with a record last year, my favorite record of last year, Himmelbacken Volume 2. I love Moon Safari. They have those incredible vocal harmonies that they're known for. That's one of their signature sounds. But behind that, they have some incredible symphonic prog that is always a joy to listen to. They're very positive and uplifting to my ears. They have some incredible stuff throughout their catalog. I love Himmelbacken Volume 2. I think it's a great even starting point, perhaps. They have this really cool epic length track, Teen Angel Meets the Apocalypse, which showcases all different facets to their style and some new facets that they didn't have before. And they're just one of the premier symphonic prog bands, I think, because they are able to do stuff that's really accessible and has great melodies to it, so it grabs you and hooks you in, but then they add a bunch of sprinkling of cool proggy adventurousness on top of it with great keyboards and guitar work, and of course those sublime vocal harmonies that are just so special and can't be beat in the modern prog space. I just think they're some of the most incredible vocalists, and how they blend and create these blends of harmonies and things is just next level. Number 5, I have kind of a joint of Steven Wilson and Porcupine Tree. Used to be Porcupine Tree, but Steven Wilson has kind of taken over this banner as a solo artist. But of course, Porcupine Tree just had a reunite record. They had Closure / Continuation recently that kind of brought them back But I don't know if that's like a one-off album and they're just going to fade back away, or if they're going to do a follow-up of some sort. But Steven Wilson as a solo artist is one of my favorites. I love his classics, The Raven, The Refuse to Sing, and Hand Cannot Erase. I think most prog fans can agree those are excellent albums that showcase his love of progressive rock, but also bringing other and different styles into the mix and his own sound to craft something a little bit different. And he doesn't really stay in the same lane too long, especially in his solo career. So his more recent albums have kind of delved into different types of things, towards 80s synth, towards, different genres that he's into, to some mixed results, but I really like it all. I'm a fan of The Future Bites, even if a lot of people didn't like that record. I just love his creative brain and what he brings to the table, and it's always sonically excellent because he has such a great hand for production and for making things sound pristine and perfect. So I really love Steven Wilson's works, and I'll always follow him in his career, even if he does things a little bit outside of the usual prog realm. I think he's just a really singular artist who has a vision and a plan, and I really love it. So I'm a big fan. Number 4 is Big Big Train. I've really fallen in love with them, more so as time passes. One of the premier symphonic prog bands still doing it, kind of bringing that classic Genesis flavor into a new generation. They had a little bit of a lineup switch up lately. Of course, David Lungden, their previous vocalist, passed away, who was such a great talent, so it was a big loss for the group. But they brought in Alberto Bravin, who's been a fantastic replacement and is one of the premier frontmen in Prague, I think, now, especially on the heels of some of his performance on Cruise to the Edge that I saw. Just really brought the house down. They have a lot of energy and a lot of fun. And I think their new record, The Likes of Us, brings some different flavors to the mix. They're kind of evolving and morphing a little bit as a band, but still retaining that special flavor and sauce that brought them to where they're at now. So incredible band, great melodies, great songcraft. They craft these really nice epics. They always have really great storytelling in their records and delve into history and different stories that they can bring to life, and they're one of the experts at this. So fallen in love with them. I really think they're excellent. And some people, they like certain records and then it falls away, but I just like everything that they come out with. I just think they continue on their upward trajectory and have just impressed me through their career. Number 3, I have the Deer Hunter. Absolutely a massive mega fan of the Deer Hunter. I think they're one of the best in the business. And once again, they probably wouldn't characterize themselves as a traditional prog band because they put in a lot of elements into their sound, and maybe you could call it more so like modern indie art rock or something like that. But I just love the way that they're infusing different genres and styles. They're a band also that does a lot of concept records and tells these elaborate stories, and they're able to really morph into these different musical styles so expertly well. Their new album, Anti-Clickbait, that came out a couple years ago, really took them in even a newer direction than their Act series records did, where they brought in a bit of a funk element with these horns and these really groovy passages. I absolutely adored it. It's right up my alley and was my favorite record of that year. So they just continue to impress me. The Acts records are legendary, especially Act 4 and Act 5, which are just pristine, perfect records to me. I think they're one of the premier bands that most people don't seem to know about and should. They're one of those kind that should be massively famous and popular, but for some reason that popularity eludes them a little bit. But amongst those that know, they've got a strong following of people who are very supportive for good reason. Just a fantastic band, and everything they do turns to gold, for me at least. Sonic gold. I just love what they do. Number 2 is Haken, moving a little bit into that prog metal direction, but I think they fit in just a normal prog world as well because of the way that they embrace quirky prog music. They have a little bit of that gentle giant-y flavor, even if they add a lot of heaviness around it. But they do concept records. They're fantastic live. I love everything they do. They're able to even infuse a lot of modern sounds, modern pop and modern metal into their music as well, to make it seem fresh and make it seem exciting. And they're just really creative in the way that they do things. I saw them on Cruise to the Edge, and I had to see them twice because I absolutely adore them and love everything they do, and they didn't disappoint at all. So I feel like their recent album Fauna is one of their best. I know some people didn't connect with it quite as much, and I think they're a band that like their catalog is so strong that you kind of have your favorites, and it's hard for anything to measure up to them. Whether that's The Mountain or Aquarius or even Vector or Virus. I think everyone has their own personal favorites and judges everything against those. And so sometimes it's hard for their new records to impress the audience at large, but they still have the same excellent level of quality to their music. And to me, they're one of the top tier bands that are still innovating and are one of the best in the genre of prog in general. So just a fantastic band that everyone should know about. And number one, of course, because this is me and this is my channel, is going to be the Neil Morse Band. And you could also add in like Flying Colors and Neil Morse solo stuff and all of that kind of thing. Just everything Neil Morse is involved in, because he's my favorite artist. And it's been a little while since the Neil Morse Band has put out a record. Innocence in Danger came out, I believe, 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. But with Mike Portnoy rejoining Dream Theater, it seems like it may be a while before they reconvene, but I don't think the band's completely dead yet. I think they'll still have more activity in the future, but we'll see how this proceeds. But I love Neil Morse. He's one of my favorite musical artists because he takes what I love about music and combines all these factors together. He has that like Beatles love where he has these great melodies and just these great hooks and songs at their core, but then he adds a bunch of cool flavors and progressive rock touches on top to make it a bit more interesting and exciting, and it's a lot of fun. And so it's just really incredible music, and he brings together all these incredible musicians that play together. He does all these elaborate concept records. He's able to add and infuse a sense of fun into the music, other genres and different things to bring different aspects on board. Has a bit of that, classic symphonic vibe, but brings some new flavors as well to make it his own. I just think he's a wonderful artist and one of the premier progressive rock artists in all of progressive rock. And I know he's not for everybody. One of the big discoveries of like having a YouTube channel and being able to discover how other people feel about these bands that I love has illuminated me to the fact that, not everyone's a massive fan of Neil Morse and don't like certain aspects of what he does, or just it's not for them at all. So I understand that. That's cool. But for me, this is like premier progressive rock. I really love the style that he has, and he's crafted some of my favorite records of all time. So can't go wrong with that. So yeah, those are 15 bands that I absolutely love, that I think showcase that modern progressive rock is a thriving and vibrant genre that still has a lot of bands that impress me and that continue to put out really high quality releases. It's not just about the classic 70s bands. And I didn't include, even though some of those classic 70s bands are still making music like Yes and Jethro Tull, I don't feel like their current material is them at their height. These bands that I'm discussing in this video are still, in my opinion, at the height of their careers and are still crafting music that's exciting and fun and up to the best that I've heard in progressive rock. So there you go, 15 bands I love. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll stick around. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments your favorite bands that are still active and that you follow and are excited about, and I hopefully will catch you guys in another episode. Thank you, everybody. Bye.